The Carixian Galactic Empire ruled 70% of the Milky Way for thousands of years. They considered themselves unstoppable. Then they discovered Earth. Admiral Vexthor stood on the bridge of his massive warship, staring at the holographic display of the small blue planet. His gray skin wrinkled in confusion as he studied the readings. Primitive technology, yet they've already established colonies on nearby star systems, he muttered. How is this possible? His second-in-command, Sub-Commander Krill, approached with a datapad. The humans of Earth have only achieved faster-than-light travel within the last 50 years. They have small settlements on planets orbiting Alpha Centauri and Tau Ceti. Such rapid advancement is concerning, Vexthor said. What of their military capabilities? Limited space-based weapons, nothing that could threaten even our smallest vessels, Krill replied. However, their ground forces show unusual adaptability. They'd fought many wars among themselves. Vexthor's 4 eyes narrowed. Interesting. Prepare a diplomatic envoy. I will assess these humans personally. On Earth, the United Nations Space Command Headquarters buzzed with activity. Captain Lisa Harmon paced nervously in the briefing room as officials argued around her. An alien empire. Are we sure this isn't some kind of hoax? Asked General Frank Bennett. Admiral Susan Powell shook her head. The signals were picked up by all our deep space arrays. The vessel approaching is unlike anything we've ever designed. This is happening, people. Captain Harmon cleared her throat. Admiral, why was my ship chosen for first contact? The UNSC Defiant is our newest vessel with the best defensive capabilities, Powell explained. If things go south, you might actually make it back to warn us. The room fell silent. Harmon felt the weight of humanity's future on her shoulders. 3 days later, the Defiant waited at the agreed coordinates near Earth's moon. Captain Harmon stood tall in her dress uniform, surrounded by her most trusted crew members. Contact approaching, announced Lieutenant Jason Kim from his station. It's massive. The view screen displayed an enormous vessel that made the Defiant look like a toy in comparison. Its dark metal hull absorbed light rather than reflected it, creating an ominous silhouette against the stars. Open communications, Harmon ordered, her voice steady despite her racing heart. The screen flickered, revealing Admiral Vexthor. His alien appearance, 4 eyes, gray skin, and a mouth full of sharp teeth, caused several crew members to gasp. Greetings, humans, Vexthor said, his translator converting his clicks and whistles into English. I represent the Carixian Galactic Empire, rulers of the stars you now seek to explore. Captain Harmon bowed slightly. On behalf of Earth and all humanity, we welcome you and seek peaceful relations. Vexthor's upper eyes blinked slowly. Peace is simple to achieve. Submit to the Empire, and you will be protected. The bridge crew exchanged worried glances. Perhaps there's been a misunderstanding, Harmon replied carefully. We wish to establish diplomatic relations as equals, not as subjects. Vexthor made a sound that might have been laughter. There are no equals to the Empire, only those who serve and those who are destroyed. Admiral Powell, watching the exchange from Earth, cursed under her breath. Surely there's room for discussion, Harmon insisted. Your species has potential, Captain, Vexthor acknowledged. But potential must be properly directed. The Empire has ruled the stars for millennia. Your civilization has barely left its cradle. The alien leaned forward. You have 1 Earth month to prepare your leaders for our arrival. We will accept your submission then. Any resistance will be met with force you cannot imagine. The communication ended abruptly. Captain Harmon turned to her communications officer. Get me Earth Command. Now. As the Defiant raced back to Earth, Vexthor's ship departed. On its bridge, the Admiral reviewed the data from their scan of Earth. Such confidence from primitives, he remarked to Krill. Prepare the diplomatic fleet, and behind them, position our war vessels. I suspect these humans may need a demonstration of imperial power. Krill hesitated. The war vessels, Admiral. for such a primitive species. Vexthor stared at Earth's image. Something about them troubles me. It's better to be prepared. Little did he know, humanity was about to surprise him in ways the Empire had never experienced before. Earth's Emergency Council gathered in the underground bunker beneath the old United Nations building. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials argued loudly around the circular table. "We must negotiate," insisted UN Secretary Diane Wells. "The technology gap is too great. Fighting would mean extinction." Commander Jack Russell slammed his fist on the table. Everyone fell silent. The battle-scarred veteran pointed to the holographic display showing the Carixian fleet's positions. "Negotiate what? Our surrender terms," he growled. "These aliens have conquered every species they've encountered. They don't negotiate. They dominate." Admiral Powell nodded. "Intelligence suggests they're already positioning attack forces throughout our solar system." "How reliable is this intelligence?" asked President Eric Martinez. Lieutenant Olivia Grant stepped forward. Her normally neat uniform looked wrinkled, evidence of the sleepless nights she'd spent decoding alien transmissions. "Very reliable, sir. My team has cracked portions of their communication protocols." She tapped her tablet, and alien text appeared on the main screen. "This is from Admiral Vexthor to their high command," she explained. "He describes humans as barely evolved primates with delusions of significance. He recommends a swift military action to correct our misplaced confidence." The room grew quiet as the implications sank in. "They're going to attack regardless of our answer," President Martinez realized. "Yes, sir," Grant confirmed. "They've already designated Earth as Acquisition Target 7291. The decision to conquer was made before first contact." Commander Russell stood up. "We need to activate all defense protocols immediately. Every experimental weapon, every military asset we have." "And what good will that do against a species that controls most of the galaxy?" asked Secretary Wells. Russell's eyes narrowed. "They think we're weak because we're young. But they haven't seen how humans fight when cornered." The council debated through the night. By morning, Earth sent its response to the Carixians, an offer of peaceful coexistence with trade and cultural exchange. Aboard his flagship, Admiral Vexthor read the human response and laughed. "They speak of partnership when they should be begging for mercy," he told his officers. "Prepare the first strike. Target their lunar colony. Show them the cost of defiance." Sub-Commander Krill hesitated. "Admiral, our scouts report unusual activity around Earth. They appear to be mobilizing." "Of course they are," Vexthor dismissed. "Primitive creatures always struggle before accepting their fate." On Earth, Commander Russell supervised the activation of the planetary defense grid. Engineers worked frantically to bring online weapon systems that had only existed as prototypes weeks ago. "Will it be enough?" asked President Martinez, who had come to observe. Russell watched as hidden missile silos opened across the planet. Orbital defense platforms that had been disguised as communication satellites revealed their true nature. "Probably not," he admitted, "but we'll make them remember their first war with humans." Lieutenant Grant rushed into the command center, breathless. "Carixian vessels are moving into attack formation near Luna Colony," she reported. "Estimated time to weapons range, 15 minutes. President Martinez took a deep breath. "Warn the colonists. Begin evacuation." "Already done, sir," Grant replied. "But there's not enough time to get everyone out." The president closed his eyes briefly. When he opened them, his decision was clear. "Then we fight. Commander Russell, you have full authority." Russell nodded grimly. "All defense units on standby. Let's show these aliens what happens when you threaten Earth." Across space, the massive Carixian warships approached the lunar colony, weapons charging. Inside his command chamber, Admiral Vexthor gave the order that would begin the first interstellar war in human history. "Commence the attack. Let the humans learn their place in our empire." He had no idea that this would be remembered as the Empire's greatest mistake. The Carixian fleet appeared above Luna Colony without warning, their weapons charged with an eerie blue glow before unleashing destruction upon the lunar surface. Habitat domes shattered. Atmosphere vented into the vacuum of space. Thousands of colonists died in the first minutes of the attack. Status report. Commander Russell demanded from Earth Command Center. Luna Colony has lost 80% of its structures, a technician reported. Voice shaking. Estimated casualties. Over 10,000. President Martinez watched the screens with horror. What about evacuations? 7 emergency shuttles managed to launch before the main attack, Lieutenant Grant said. Approximately 400 survivors. Among those survivors was Dr. Samantha Kelly, Luna's chief science officer. Her shuttle bounced violently as it attempted to escape the Carixian targeting systems. Activate the stealth systems, she ordered the pilot. They're experimental, the pilot protested. And being dead isn't. Dr. Kelly shot back. Do it. The shuttle shimmered and seemingly vanished from sensors. 6 other shuttles did the same. Their experimental cloaking technology, originally designed for scientific exploration, now saving their lives. Back on Earth, Commander Russell made his decision. Activate Defense Protocol Alpha. All orbital platforms, fire at will. Earth's response was swift and unexpected. Hidden weapon platforms revealed themselves, launching missile salvos at the Carixian fleet. The aliens had expected primitive defenses, easily overwhelmed. Instead, they faced highly advanced weapons based on technology they thought humans couldn't possibly possess. On his flagship, Admiral Vexthor watched in disbelief as 3 of his dreadnoughts exploded. Impossible, he hissed. How did they? Their weapons are using gravitational disruption technology, Sub-Commander Krill reported, panic evident in his voice. Our shields are ineffective. Vexthor's 4 eyes widened. Gravitational disruption. That's Tier 7 technology. These primitives should be at Tier 2 at most. On Earth, Chief Engineer Daniel Wright watched the battle from his underground facility. The old engineer smiled grimly as his systems performed exactly as designed. Project Prometheus is online, he reported to Commander Russell, transmitting targeting data to all defense platforms. The truth was simple but shocking. Humanity had been preparing for this moment for decades. Since detecting faint alien signals 20 years earlier, Earth had devoted vast resources to reverse engineering the technology fragments they could decipher. Project Prometheus was the result, weapons far beyond what Earth should possess. In space, the battle continued. The Carixians still had overwhelming numbers, but they were now fighting cautiously, confused by the unexpected resistance. The surviving lunar colonists, led by Dr. Kelly, didn't flee to Earth. Instead, they used their stealth systems to approach the Carixian fleet from behind. "What are you doing?" demanded one of the shuttle pilots. "We need to get to Earth." Dr. Kelly's face was set with determination. "We're going to hit them where they don't expect it." Her shuttle transmitted instructions to the others. They approached a Carixian supply ship, attached to its hull, and began cutting their way inside. On Earth, President Martinez addressed the United Nations. Today, the Carixian Empire learned that humans do not surrender. Today, we officially declare war against those who would enslave us. The declaration was broadcast across all frequencies, including those the Carixians used. Admiral Vexthor received the message with growing concern. 3 dreadnoughts lost, and the humans were still fighting. This was not the easy conquest he had promised his emperor. "Regroup the fleet," he ordered. "We need reinforcements before proceeding." As the Carixian ships began to withdraw to safer positions, they didn't notice the small stealth shuttles attached to one of their vessels. Dr. Kelly and her team of survivors had just become the first human guerrilla force in interstellar space. Commander Russell watched the enemy retreat with grim satisfaction. "They'll be back," he said quietly. "But next time, we'll be even more ready." 6 months passed since the attack on Luna Colony. The Carixian Empire had expected a quick victory. Instead, they found themselves in a grinding war against an enemy that refused to surrender and kept revealing new surprises. Fleet Admiral William Carter stood in Earth's orbital command station, watching as technicians prepared for the next phase of the war. The station, hidden in an asteroid towed into Earth orbit years ago, had remained undetected by the Carixians. "Is the fleet ready?" Carter asked his executive officer. "Yes, sir. All ships report green status." Carter nodded and pressed the comm button. "Commence Operation Avalanche." Deep within the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, hidden shipyards activated. Massive hangar doors opened, revealing hundreds of warships that Earth had secretly built over the past decade. The Deep Space Fleet, humanity's hidden ace, moved into formation. On the Carixian command ship, Admiral Vexthor received alarming reports. "Impossible," he hissed. "Where did these vessels come from?" "Our scans showed nothing of this magnitude." The human fleet approached using a formation the Carixians had never seen before. At its center was the UNSC Valiant, commanded by Captain Noah Freeman. "All ships, maintain quantum link communications only," Freeman ordered. "No standard transmissions." This was humanity's second surprise. The quantum entanglement communication system allowed human ships to coordinate perfectly without any signals that could be intercepted or jammed. To the Carixians, the human fleet seemed to act with impossible coordination, as if guided by a single mind. Meanwhile, far behind enemy lines, Lieutenant Alan Peterson led his Special Forces team through the corridors of a captured Carixian scout ship. Their mission: steal a fully functional enemy vessel and its technology. "Security systems bypassed," whispered Sergeant Linda Hayes as she worked on the alien computer. "Bridge is locked down." Peterson nodded. "Move in. Stun weapons only. We need live prisoners for questioning." The team executed the raid with precision. Within 20 minutes, they had control of the ship and 3 Carixian officers as prisoners. "Begin the jump sequence," Peterson ordered. "Let's get this prize back to Earth." Back in the main battle, the Carixians found themselves outmaneuvered despite their superior technology. Human ships would appear from nowhere, strike hard, and vanish before effective countermeasures could be deployed. In his research facility on Earth, Daniel Wright examined the pieces of Carixian technology gathered from previous battles. His team had not only reverse-engineered the alien tech, but had begun improving upon it. "Their power systems are efficient but inflexible," Wright explained to visiting military officials. "We've modified the designs to be more adaptable. Our versions are now 30% more powerful than theirs." The Carixian War Council convened an emergency session. The Emperor himself attended, his massive form dwarfing the military leaders. "Explain how these primitives are defeating our forces," the Emperor demanded. Admiral Zorko, who had replaced several dismissed commanders, bowed low. "Your Majesty, we severely underestimated the humans. They fight unlike any species we have encountered. They adapt rapidly, using our own technology against us in ways we never considered." "Unacceptable," roared the Emperor. "Double the fleet size. I want Earth reduced to ash." But the Empire faced another unexpected problem. Several of their subject species, inspired by human resistance, had begun rebellions of their own. Resources that should have gone to crushing Earth were diverted to maintaining control over their vast territory. On the border worlds, news spread quickly. Humans were fighting the unstoppable Empire and surviving. Hope began to grow among species that had been enslaved for generations. In Earth's defense headquarters, Commander Russell reviewed the latest battle reports with satisfaction. "The Carixians made one critical mistake," he told President Martinez. "They thought they were starting a war. They didn't realize they were fighting an enemy that has never stopped preparing for war throughout its entire history." The president nodded solemnly. "And we're just getting started." The message arrived unexpectedly through a channel humans had never used before. Lieutenant Olivia Grant was the first to detect it. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission on a frequency that bypasses all Carixian monitoring systems. she reported to Commander Russell. "A trap?" Russell asked, instantly suspicious. "I don't think so. It's using encryption algorithms similar to our own." When they finally decoded the message, it wasn't what anyone expected. "We are the Velnari. We have watched your resistance against the Empire. We wish to help." The Velnari, as Earth soon learned, were one of the oldest species conquered by the Carixians. For centuries, they had served as slaves, their once great civilization reduced to providing technical expertise for their masters. Now they saw an opportunity in humanity's unexpected resilience. Ambassador Maria Diaz was chosen to establish contact with the potential allies. Her shuttle traveled to coordinates deep in neutral space, escorted by 3 warships. "This could change everything," she told Captain Gray Harris as they approached the meeting point. "Or it could be the most elaborate trap in history," Harris replied grimly. But it wasn't a trap. The Velnari representative, a tall, slender being with iridescent skin, brought valuable intelligence on Carixian fleet movements and weaknesses. "Your resistance has inspired many," the Velnari told Ambassador Diaz. "For the first time in 1,000 years, the Empire faces rebellion on multiple fronts." Back on Earth, General Stephen Hughes coordinated the integration of this new intelligence with their military strategy. Maps of Carixian territory glowed on the large screens, with red indicators showing new rebellion hotspots. "If we coordinate our attacks with these other resistance movements, we can stretch the Empire's forces thin," Hughes explained to military leaders. In his laboratory, Chief Engineer Wright unveiled humanity's newest advantage. He demonstrated by having a soldier step into a chamber. When the soldier emerged, microscopic machines flowed just beneath his skin. "Adaptive nanotechnology," Wright explained. "It analyzes enemy weapons in real time and creates countermeasures." The soldier placed his arm in a testing chamber. A captured Carixian weapon fired at him. The beam struck his arm, but instead of causing damage, the energy dissipated across the surface of his skin. "The nanites create a responsive shield," Wright continued. "The more they're exposed to a specific weapon, the better they protect against it." This technology was quickly deployed to frontline troops. The Carixians were shocked when their weapons suddenly became less effective against human soldiers. On the other side of the galaxy, the Carixian Emperor raged at his commanders. "How are these humans adapting so quickly? They were nothing but primitives a year ago." Admiral Vex Thor, once the confident leader of the invasion, now fought for his own survival within the Empire's hierarchy. "The humans possess an unusual capacity for innovation," he explained carefully. "They think differently than any species we've encountered." "I don't want explanations," the Emperor roared. "I want Earth destroyed. Use the Planet Killer if necessary." The Planet Killer was the Empire's ultimate weapon, a device capable of rendering a world uninhabitable. It had only been used twice in the Empire's long history, both times as examples to quell massive rebellions. As the Empire prepared this weapon, Dr. Kelly's resistance movement had grown from the original lunar survivors into a network of operatives throughout Carixian territory. Her agents discovered the Planet Killer's activation and immediately sent warnings to Earth. A joint human-Velnari task force was quickly assembled. General Hughes selected his best officers for the mission. "This is Operation Sword of Damocles," he told them. "You must disable that weapon at any cost." As preparations continued, more alien species reached out to the humans. Species that had been conquered centuries ago saw a chance for freedom. The Carixian Empire, which had dominated the galaxy through fear and overwhelming force, now found itself fighting enemies on all sides. Ambassador Diaz worked tirelessly, forging alliances with species humans had never known existed before the war. "The galaxy is changing," she told President Martins during a secure briefing. "And humanity is the catalyst." 2 years into the war, the Carixian Empire no longer resembled the unstoppable force that had first threatened Earth. Multiple alien civilizations had risen in open rebellion. Supply lines were disrupted. Military units defected. An empire that had stood for thousands of years was coming apart. Captain Ryan Foster studied the holographic display of the Carixian homeworld's defenses. His ship, the UNSC Intrepid, led a fleet of 30 vessels hiding behind the system's outer moon. "Those orbital platforms have enough firepower to destroy our entire fleet," his tactical officer warned. Foster nodded. "That's why we won't be fighting them directly." The plan was audacious. While the main human fleet engaged Carixian forces in the Centauri system, drawing away reinforcements, Foster's smaller fleet would strike directly at the heart of the Empire. "Velnari infiltration teams report ready," his communications officer announced. "Begin Phase 1, Foster ordered. Throughout the Carixian orbital defense network, small explosions began disabling key systems. The Velnari resistance had spent months placing these devices. Now they activated simultaneously, creating chaos in the defense grid. "All ships, full thrust," Foster commanded. "Weapons hot." His fleet burst from hiding, racing toward the planet at maximum speed. The remaining Carixian defenses responded, but their coordination was disrupted by the sabotage. On the Carixian homeworld, the War Council met in emergency session. "We've lost control of 12 major systems," reported Fleet Commander Drac. "The Velnari homeworld has declared independence. The Zoraxians and Talari have overthrown our governors." Admiral Vexthor, once the promising military leader who had discovered Earth, now appeared gaunt and desperate. "We must sue for peace while we still have bargaining power." "Surrender? Never." The Emperor's voice boomed through the chamber. "We have ruled the stars since these humans were living in caves. And now they're in orbit above our homeworld," Vexthor replied quietly. The Emperor's guards moved toward Vexthor, weapons ready, but several council members stood with the Admiral. "The Emperor has led us to ruin," declared Admiral Zorkel, the highest-ranking military leader. "I move for an immediate vote of no confidence." Near the edge of human-controlled space, Dr. Kelly's resistance force had grown into a substantial military operation. What began with a few hundred lunar survivors now included thousands of liberated slaves and defectors from the Carixian military. "The supply depot is secure," her lieutenant reported. "We've captured enough weapons and equipment to arm 3 more resistance cells." Dr. Kelly nodded. "Send the coordinates to Earth Command, and prepare the prisoners for transport." Unlike the Carixians, humans treated their prisoners with respect. This policy had led to increasing defections, as word spread that surrender to humans meant fair treatment rather than execution. Back on Earth, engineers worked to improve captured Carixian technology. Human innovation combined with alien tech-produced weapons and shields more advanced than anything the Empire had developed in centuries. They became complacent, Chief Engineer Wright explained to a group of new technicians. They stopped innovating because no one challenged them. That was their biggest mistake. In the Carixian War Council chamber, chaos erupted. The Emperor ordered the arrest of the traitors, but military leaders had come prepared. Guards who had seemed loyal to the Emperor suddenly turned their weapons on his personal bodyguards. "The Empire cannot survive if we continue this pointless war," Admiral Zorkel announced. "We vote to remove the Emperor and negotiate with the humans." The vote passed. For the first time in 2,000 years, the Carixian Emperor was removed from power. As Captain Foster's fleet maintained position above the Carixian homeworld, a message arrived from the surface. "This is Admiral Zorkel, acting leader of the Carixian people. We request immediate cessation of hostilities and open negotiations for peace." Foster transmitted the message to Earth, where President Martinez and the War Council received it with cautious optimism. "Is this genuine?" Martinez asked. Commander Russell nodded. "Intelligence confirms a coup has taken place. The Emperor has been deposed." "Then prepare our terms," the President ordered. "This war ends on our conditions, not theirs." The peace conference took place on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Saturn, constructed specifically for this historic meeting. Representatives from 20 formerly subjugated species joined Earth's delegation. The Carixians, once rulers of most of the galaxy, now sat on the other side of the table as equals. Admiral Zorkel led the Carixian delegation. The tall, gray-skinned alien looked uncomfortable in the human-designed chair, but maintained his dignity. For 10,000 years, the Empire governed the stars. Zorkel began. We believed this was the natural order, that stronger species should rule weaker ones. President Martinez sat silently, letting the Admiral continue. We were wrong, Zorkel admitted. Strength comes in many forms. Your species showed us that age and technological advantage do not guarantee victory. The peace treaty required 3 days to finalize. Its terms were firm but not vindictive. The Carixian Empire would dissolve. All conquered worlds would receive independence. A new Galactic Council would form, with equal representation for all species, including humans. On the final day, Admiral William Carter addressed the Assembly. He had commanded Earth's forces throughout much of the war. His weathered face showed the strain of 2 years of constant combat. 3 years ago, we didn't know alien life existed, Carter began. Then the Carixian Empire arrived and demanded our submission. He paused, looking directly at the Carixian delegation. You gave us a warning then. Allow me to return the courtesy. His voice grew harder. If you ever encounter humans again with hostile intent, run. Run as fast and as far as you can, because we will not show mercy twice. The room fell silent. Even the Carixians nodded in acknowledgement. After the treaty signing, Dr. Samantha Kelly reunited with her former colleagues from Luna Colony. Of the 400 survivors who had escaped the initial attack, 312 remained alive. Their guerrilla campaign had been crucial to the human victory. What will you do now? Asked one of her fellow resistance fighters. Kelly looked out the viewport at the rings of Saturn. Help rebuild. There are worlds that have known nothing but Carixian rule for centuries. They'll need guidance to establish their independence. Earth changed profoundly in the aftermath of the war. Humanity went from a single-planet species to a significant galactic power in just 3 years. New technologies, adapted from Carixian designs, transformed life on Earth and its colonies. Commander Jack Russell, now promoted to general, established the Interstellar Defense Initiative. This new organization would protect former Empire worlds as they developed their own defenses. We won't replace one empire with another, Russell explained at the initiative's founding ceremony. Our role is to protect, not to govern. On the former Carixian homeworld, Admiral Zorkel faced the difficult task of rebuilding his society. For millennia, Carixians had defined themselves as conquerors and rulers. Now they needed a new identity. We must learn to create rather than conquer, he told his people. The humans defeated us not because they were stronger, but because they could imagine possibilities we never considered. Lieutenant Olivia Grant, whose intelligence work had been vital during the war, now headed Earth's new Xenological Relations Department. Her first task was to compile a comprehensive database of all known species and their cultures. Understanding is our best defense against future conflicts, she explained to her staff. We won the war because we adapted quickly. Now we need to adapt to peace. 6 months after the treaty signing, the first meeting of the new Galactic Council convened. Ambassador Maria Diaz represented Earth, taking her seat among delegates from over 50 worlds. This marks the beginning of a new era, the Council speaker announced. For the first time, the galaxy unites not under force but by choice. As the proceedings began, Admiral Carter watched from the observation gallery. He remembered the first Carixian attack, the thousands of lives lost, and the desperate early days of the war. Was it worth it? Asked President Martinez, who stood beside him. Carter gestured to the council chamber, where former enemies now worked together. They came to conquer us, he said quietly. Instead, they freed the galaxy. The president nodded. And next time someone discovers humans, they'll know to approach with respect, Carter finished, or not at all.